Hi, and welcome to the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast. I am your host, Patricia Wald-Hopkins. I am a modern mystic, and I am here to share with you the beautiful wisdom and stories from women that desire to lead their lives inspired by the divine within them. The divinely inspired woman is devoted to walking the path of her soul's calling, tuning into the divinity within to navigate life with ease and grace through all circumstances. She cultivates beauty in her daily life. She is here to share the most authentic self each day through thick and thin. So I hope you'll enjoy our show today and that you will leave with an infusion of inspiration for your soul and for your day and living your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman. I'm your host, Patricia Wald-Hopkins, and I have a wonderful, just beautiful soul here today with me. I want to say, I just really feel honored to have you here with us today, NancyAnn. I've known you a long time, and yeah, it's just wonderful to have you here as a guest. And so I want to tell people a little bit about you before we start having our conversation. But again, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So NancyAnn, just a little bit about her. As a child, she was born a pioneer awake to nature. A quiet, curious observer, she developed a double life, the one expected of her and a more sentient one, as an unorthodox explorer of hidden mysteries that escaped others around her. She studied sciences and traveled to other cultures and immersed herself in diverse wisdom traditions to validate her out-of-the-box approach to life. As she worked in healthcare for 40 years, yeah, I remember that. That's quite an accomplishment, yes. Her deep immersions led her to holistic ways of life and practices that arose as she followed her curiosity, an unquenchable thirst and awakening whispers to literally come to your senses, to learn what is true from the earth and true to deep inner knowing, helped her preserve and live from this sentient connection true to life. From her unknowing, she has become a kinesthetic agent for poetry medicine. Rooted in life, her expressions transmit and translate her unearthed wisdom and immersive experiences into a voice that awakens living medicine that lives in our internal landscapes. Sound, earth songs, movements, stories, poetry, what arises from both our personal and the collective sentient body of Gaia, helping us wake up to the living world we are part of in these radically changing times. Yeah, wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I had a radically changing life, so these current changing times are just another chapter.
Just another chapter. Well, tell us a little bit about your journey. This is the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast, and how has your life been directed by the divine?
But when I first heard your mention about the voices of Gaia, I went, oh, I want to know more about that. I know I have a Gaian voice. I wonder what other Gaian voices are up to. I need to find more Gaian voices to hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as we all know, the voice of the feminine has really been mystified how to speak what it knows and feels and experiences and what's real and what keeps us alive.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you do that and actually be heard and received? I've been asking them these kinds of questions my entire life. I was born in 1946, and honestly, there were no places for most of my life. I didn't even know what a woman was. So I had to make up my own version, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But Trish, so this idea of the voices of Gaia brings me back to this focus about beauty. And I have to say, I've had people along the way that have taught me lots of things, but you're the one person I most directly experienced this deep connection to beauty
Oh.
life. So when you and I did some things together,
Mm-hmm.
and your art and creative projects started blossoming, I
Mm-hmm.
was astounded at what was pouring through you. So much beauty, because mine was still quite deeply buried. I think I was already doing my poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing that had a more visual content, because I am a very strongly kinesthetic person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I keep coming back to this thing about beauty. People have always said beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes.
But somebody else said there are thousands of ways to touch and kneel and kiss the ground. There's more than enough room for all the kinds of beauty out there. And
Mm.
hear the voices of what different people find beautiful that may have been mundane and totally unnoticed. You can't forget these things or forget that, of course, beauty is here, no matter what is going on in our lives. The beauty didn't go anywhere. And to give it a
Yeah.
voice so it doesn't get forgotten seems
Mm.
exquisitely important.
Yeah.
And um, so then it's like, well, what do we do with that? What do we do about that? How do we make it meaningful? How is it purposeful? And
Mm-hmm.
I just came across something I wrote in September of 2019.
Mm.
I have been holding this inside of me for a very long time, and I found it interesting that it appeared for this
Oh, wow.
podcast. And so I'm just going to read this because, I learn when I read these words myself because they go through, it's like an archaeological dig of my whole life
Yeah.
experience.
I love that.
So, yeah,
Yes, share.
uh, we are guided by a larger web of intelligence whose
Mm-hmm.
wisdom contains the many elements of life from which our lives are made. With mastery of life, one develops an intimate relationship with the elements
Mm.
and forces of life that live inside of us as a regenerative force that renews. That beauty I was just talking about was
Mm.
beautiful. It shines and is alive, and any remembrance that reflects it back lets us remember from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And and the ripples of life, they ripple like a dance,
Mm-hmm.
flow through our bodies and bring us alive again.
Mm-hmm.
We can't know it exists, this sense, alive sense of beauty, until magically it does. It magically shows up. We can feel it in our sentient body.
Mm.
But the magic, besides that, is that when I am magical, the people around me are magical.
Mm-hmm.
And life is magical.
Mm-hmm.
So, I woke up not too long ago and there was this sentence. Anyway, it wanted to be a whole poem. I'm just going to give you the sentence.
Okay.
Let your beauty teach you your strengths.
Oh, yeah. Say that. Say that a couple more times for our audience. That's powerful.
Let your beauty teach you your strengths. May you never forget your aliveness and the strength that aliveness brings, tethered to your beauty,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to your soul, to your heart, and to the whole of who you are.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And I think, this is just a wonderful time, for your summit and for these kinds of conversations because spring brings us alive in us. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
form is ours. And so here's another thing I wrote. And I'm a spring person,
Mm-hmm.
as you might.
Me too.
And I wrote this one actually in the spring of 2021, despite everything that was going on. Right. Oh, that's
Yeah.
actually, was that long ago? That's actually when I got that sentence that I
Okay.
read for you. But the last paragraph of the poem that it brought with it says, the magic of spring comes again each year. Beauty returns in infinite ways in us and around us, above us and below us, before us and behind us.
Mm.
That, you see, is the influence of my having lived on the Navajo Nation, the Diné Nation,
Oh, wow.
for those years. That lives inside of me now.
Yeah.
There is always the beauty of now, touching and guiding the strengths of now, those small things we remember as beauty,
Mm.
root in the knowing of the deep heart and bring new strength.
Mm. That's so beautiful.
Thank you for those seeds you're planting, Patricia.
I think that Gaia planted those. I was just carrying them.
Well, in our hearts and the earth, we all carry seeds.
We all carry seeds,
When we plant those seeds, we can grow a whole garden.
right?
And
We never know. We
our,
never know.
our heart is a virtual garden when we collect those seeds.
Yeah, heart. The seeds of the heart are
Mm.
love and beauty. I really as you were, I don't know if you know this or not, but as you speak the poems, the poetry, there's a certain resonance in your voice that takes me to like an Irish countryside. It's really feels very green and like lush and just very well magical at that too, but um had that ever occurred to you that you are sort of channeling a
I do I think that we can channel nature. I do believe that. When I remember places that I have really deep magical connections to, that touched
Mhm.
on those that really shifted my life in a particular way, and now I feel that energy, it starts to light up more of that particular signature, I'll call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty. Nature has so many signatures.
Mhm.
There's more than enough for everyone to have their own expression. And we
Well,
do it
that's so
together.
true.
We
That's
populate
so
the
true.
grid, right? Just like we have our own grid, the planet, well, we're part of that grid, aren't we?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But when I look around me here in Portland, Oregon, and there's still a lot of people still in the post-pandemic shock on
Right.
things. And so I don't necessarily have a lot of conversation, except at the dog parks. Amazing conversations happen there because they're also nature places and
Mhm.
people who would resonate with these things that I just spoke of because they're not still buried in the heaviness of, what the pandemic has called for. Um, that there's something different that happens. And then I of course, ask myself, well, how do I share this wisdom in an alive, pragmatic, useful way that touches people, but respects and honors exactly where they are, and at the same time touches that spark that's down there hidden somewhere, so that in some magical moment it can find its way up to the surface to express some new part that has been waiting to be birthed. Spring is our rebirthing time, and the global
Yeah.
level, this is a massive spring awakening at the global level for humanity.
Hmm.
Totally massive. So I have to ask, well, then how do I support others? And I have
Hmm.
to say, when I go on my walks in nature, that um, sometimes I have pad and pencil, but sometimes I just want to listen to nature. So maybe I don't take a pad along. Well, wouldn't you know, something fantastic will come through, and I'll go, no, no, those are too many words. I don't think I can remember them. And out of this came a practice.
Mm.
And the practice was I started singing the words. Children know this. If you take words and you do a sing song rhythm in a melody that you love, you will never forget those words. And so, even
Wow.
on longer walks, I'd sing it several times until
Hmm.
I was done. And then, I'm walking with the dogs and we're doing our thing. And every once in a while, maybe add another verse will add on.
Oh, it's
And when I
wonderful.
get home, I'd write it down on paper. So I had several of these. And I thought, this is really fascinating. There must be some place I can share these. I wish there
Hmm.
was a live mic somewhere. Oh my goodness. I met a woman in the park who is an, an artist who's in her birthing process.
Hmm.
But amazing. And we made this really strong connection and have stayed good friends. And so when I met her, I said, "Oh, you're connected to the art community." She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, maybe I can get connected to the art." And then I said something about this crazy idea about a live mic. And she said, they've been talking about a live mic. I think they have one. I said, "Really?
Oh, wow.
How do I find out about it?" So we went to a live one of these things. They would do
Uh-huh.
once a week, right? And the people who were there were everything from street people to homeless to, they ran the entire gamut. And I tell you, the room was rich with the aroma of cannabis
No.
because most of them were in deep stress, but their
Mm.
creativity was also blossoming. It was amazing the things they were doing. I really
Wow.
enjoyed just being in the space and holding the beauty that they were creating in the midst of so much. And after I went a few times, and I came home one day and it was like, oh, this, I meant to go next time. And I meant to sing my songs. And an amazing thing happened. So they're just little short songs with maybe one verse, two verse, three verses. And it was like, well, which ones? Well, how am I going to put them together? And we get 7 minutes to do our magic, 7 minutes only. And if
7.
you don't stop, you get cut off.
Oh,
I said,
boy.
oh my God, I have to time myself. I've never timed myself when I'm doing a creative act. It's like, I'm just going to say it the way I want. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to see what happens. And they fit sort of nicely together. And then I realized some of them could be carved down, and some of them, there were particular lines that were particularly shiny to my sense of beauty. And I just wove them together like a medley. Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you. It was a life-changing experience because what
Mm.
happened was when my time came, it was like I had support from the from the realms around me. Somebody,
Yeah.
the person at the podium who was supposed to introduce me knocked a glass of water over and it was on the stage. So we had to clean it up. So I got to stand on the stage, take in the energy of the audience, and just, a sort of a connection, not eye to eye.
Right, right. Yeah.
But remember, I'm kinesthetic, but feeling them, and it was like, wow. So by the time it was cleaned up and I was ready to go, it was like boom, bam. It was like a few minutes into the presentation, I look out. People have dropped into the deepest state of meditation I have ever seen. I was astounded.
Wow.
You could have heard a
Incredible.
pin drop. And I went, my God, they're drinking all this in. And I started out by telling them these were songs the earth had given me, and then I
Oh,
did my thing with
beautiful.
them, and I finished right at my 7 minutes. I went off the stage, and it was like I was astounded that what 7 minutes could impact. I don't know how many people were in the room, maybe 50 or 60 people, 70, I don't know. It was packed, it was a small art space.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, it doesn't take a big presentation. It doesn't take a long presentation. But I was so present that the spirit of Gaia was there singing with me, and through these people were connected and created this vast space for the words to move through.
Mm-hmm.
And the strange thing is, one of the songs that I did is all about that. And that song was given to me last year on my birthday.
Oh.
And it's all about creating space. But we probably don't have time for that right now. We must be getting close to the end of our time.
We have a little more time, but I do want to make sure that let me just tune in here for a moment. So there is one thing
Hmm.
as you were speaking, and I just want to point this out to our audience, is that you talked about, the audience was kind of drinking in that energy, that Gaian energy that you hold. And I just want to acknowledge that whenever I received craniosacral or any work from you,
Mhm.
that was exactly how I felt when the session was complete. I was completely connected
Yes.
to the earth around me, and I felt so blissful and happy. And so I can only imagine how they felt when you were holding them in that field that you create. So I
Well,
I
thanks
just
for
wanted to
sharing
make
that. I would not have made the connection. That is exactly what I was doing with my hands when I was doing this
right, that
exercise,
kinesthetic, that energy that flows through your body,
letting the
and
energies of the universe and
mhm,
the planets move through me in the freedom of the spirit of life itself.
yes, yes.
Yeah, wonderful.
And so, is there, and if you want to share part of your song, we
Well,
definitely can, because we have time.
I will say on my presentation that I'm going
Okay,
to do as part of the
beautiful.
summit, it will be experiential, and I will be sharing a bit more poetry. And I was planning on sharing that song because it keeps showing up. The words that are in this song, I have to tell you, when I go on to other summits and other groups that I interact with online, people are
Hmm.
using some of the words of my song. So it's like, oh, we're sharing the same biofield and biofield intelligence. I love it. It isn't mine. I knew Gaia gave it to me to let it pass through. So it has to be
Right,
shared.
right.
It
We're
says we
all
should not
carrying it.
share it.
Hmm. Well, wonderful. So let's go ahead and let's tell people a little bit about this summit, the Voices of Gaia Summit that's going to be happening this weekend. And actually, when this podcast airs, it will already have be in its third day, or second day. Sorry, second day. And NancyAnn, you're coming on the 22nd, right?
Yeah.
April 22nd.
Yeah.
At Is that, tell me your time.
Free.
Is that Pacific or is that
Oh, excuse me. No, you see, you're two different things. No, actually, thank you. It's 3 uh, p.m. in the schedule, which is actually,
Mountain? Okay.
yeah.
3 p.m. Mountain. So I will make sure that I have the link to join that summit in the description of this podcast episode. And why don't you share the title of your session?
awakening the sentient body,
Mm,
the sentient body, my body, your body, our body, the Gaia's body, and the voices that want to be heard in these radically changing times.
beautiful. And is there any little pearl or big pearl of wisdom you would like to leave our audience with today?
I cannot emphasize enough the power and wisdom and magic of deepening our capacity to hear these whispers that are forever whispering inside of this body matrix we live inside of.
Mm,
And so, I wrote that the name of this podcast was Life is a Miracle, Trish.
mm-hmm.
See, in these strange and shifting times, we're being called to listen. And that is the miracle, that when we listen deeply from this place, that's who we really are. From the time we were an embryo in our mama's womb,
Mm-hmm.
those whispers started to pull together our cells and our tissues and our structures and our being and our connections to the web of life itself. Those awakening whispers live in our cells, live in our matrix, and they are the awakening whispers of wisdom, which will bring
Mm-hmm.
life together again,
Mm,
or the evolutionary guides that are now already awakening to a future we can only dream now to belong to.
mm. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Drink that in, people. And how can people connect with you, NancyAnn?
Well, I have a Facebook page. I
Okay,
don't, I'm not very public right now.
sure.
At the foundational level of looking at a life's worth of writing and condensing it into the little pieces, just like I told you how I put my songs together.
Mm-hmm.
Is the
Mm-hmm.
way I meant to go through the journals I still have and pull out pieces and weave them so that people really can see the blueprint of life we come into the world, because as embryos it's pretty much very similar. The bottom
True.
line is so similar. The differences, the differentiation and individuation that happens postnatally as we develop and
Mm-hmm.
mature is a different story. This is the story of the roots of life itself.
Mm.
That's solidifying those roots so people can deepen into their own senses, see through
Yes.
their own eyes, hear and listen through their ears, attuning to their frequencies, and to be able to speak what wants to be heard in the name of regenerative living
Mm.
that we all dream of, that moves us into the awakening future that lives inside of us, but we don't quite know what it is yet. And these Gaian voices are beginning that movement.
Beautiful.
My
Yeah.
sense, yes.
Yeah. I love that. The Gaian voices. We are starting to coalesce and come together, and
Mm.
that signal is getting stronger. So
Yes.
I look forward to
The
your
whispers
session
will be louder and easier to hear, but we still
to
have to dive in.
dive in order to channel that through.
Yes.
So, well, I imagine that at some point you can look up NancyAnn's name and there'll be several books of poetry or more, or I don't know what yet, but we'll make sure we call her back on here to have another conversation at that
Can
point
be contacted on Facebook.
on Facebook. Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And until next time, stay divinely inspired. Bye-bye for now. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman. Again, I am your host, Patricia Wald-Hopkins, and I am so glad that you joined us here today. I hope you left with some soul food to inspire your daily life. And if you would like to learn more about my work, please check out my website, patriciawaldhopkins.com, and you can find out more about my divinely inspired practice and tools. So, thank you again. Have a beautiful day. Hi, I'm dropping in here with an announcement about a program, a new mentorship that I am offering. It's called Voices of Gaia, and it's about bringing your voice, your leadership, your life in alignment with Gaia's guidance. So if you feel called to learn more about this program, it's a beautiful, rich program where we dive into your essence. And if you so desire, we develop your business around it and really blossom into your whole lifestyle, this wisdom from Gaia that wants to be spoken through you. So if you feel called, reach out to me at patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. That's patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. There's no hyphen between Wald and Hopkins. And I would just love to hear from you and see if this is a good fit. So thank you for tuning in. Have a beautiful day.